As with any sport, boxing had its fair share of controversial decisions in 2025, from baffling scorecards to results that left fans, fighters, and even promoters shaking their heads. Some of these calls completely changed the outcome of fights, costing boxers wins, titles, and career-defining moments. In a few cases, the backlash was so intense that the decisions were debated for weeks across the boxing world. These are the worst boxing robberies of 2025. Manny Pacquiao versus Mario Barrios. We're starting with the biggest name, and probably the loudest argument of the year, because when Manny Pacquiao came back in 2025 and fought Mario Barrios, the result wasn't just close. It instantly turned into a boxing culture war, half the sport screaming legendary comeback, the other half saying the cards don't match what we watched. The fight was scored a draw, but a huge chunk of fans and media felt Pacquiao nicked it with cleaner, more meaningful work, the kind of burst he's built a career on. And what poured gasoline on the fire was that even WBC president Mauricio Sulaiman came out afterward and basically said the same thing. Sulaiman acknowledged the draw didn't reflect what happened in the ring and said, "That draw felt like a clear victory." He even added that if Pacquiao retires now, he goes out on top through the front door. When the head of the sanctioning body is publicly saying this felt like a win, you already know how the internet is going to react. The draw became one of those decisions that people kept bringing up for months, because it wasn't just about a scorecard, it was about whether boxing was going to let a legend have his moment, or take it away on paper. Why it's on the list, not because a draw is impossible, but because the consensus reaction was that Pacquiao deserved the decision, and even the WBC leadership didn't exactly defend the outcome. Hamzah Sheeraz versus Carlos Adames. Now we move to a fight where the word robbery was flying around immediately. Hamzah Sheeraz versus Carlos Adames ended as a split draw, and the scorecards are a big reason the backlash was so intense. One judge had it 115 to 114 Sheeraz, another had it 118 to 110 Adames, and the third had it 114 to 114. Even if you're someone who scores fights generously for the home fighter, those numbers don't look like three people watching the same bout. That's what people were reacting to, not just the draw, but the idea that judging could be that far apart. The narrative coming out of the fight was pretty consistent. Sheeraz had early success, boxing at range, but Adames' pressure and stronger work took over as the fight went on, and a lot of viewers felt Adames did enough to win clearly. TalkSport also cited punch stats, showing Adames landing significantly more power shots, which only amplified the "how is this a draw" reaction. This one became a lightning rod because it's exactly what fans hate, a champion arguably doing the more authoritative work and still not getting a clean result on the cards. Why it's on the list: a split draw with wildly inconsistent scoring and widespread commentator outrage that Adames should have gotten the nod. Junto Nakatani versus Sebastián Hernández. This is the scorecards versus reality entry. Nakatani is elite, and plenty of people had him winning, but the fight with Sebastián Hernández was described as a war, and it looked competitive to most people watching. Hernández surged, pushed him, and Nakatani ended up with serious swelling, to the point his eye was essentially shut late. And then the scorecards dropped, 115 to 113 twice, and 118 to 110. That 118 to 110 card is what turned this from close win into what were you watching? TalkSport reported fans fuming at the scorecard and described the fight as Nakatani narrowly avoiding an upset, which is exactly why a near shutout card looked insane to viewers. Even if you scored it for Nakatani, the controversy is about the margins, because wide cards don't just upset fans. They rewrite the story of a fight on BoxRec, and it stays in headlines forever. It's on the list because it was a competitive fight, and the crowd and online reactions said it was tight. Joshua Buatsi versus Zach Parker. This one isn't everybody agrees, but it was controversial enough that major outlets framed it that way, and the people involved were clearly not happy. Buatsi got the majority decision with cards 96 to 94, 96 to 94, and 95 to 95. Sky Sports literally called it a controversial decision and reported Parker was fuming afterward. Bad Left Hook's write-up captured the vibe too. They noted the commentary team was surprised and that Parker had a strong case for winning, while also saying it wasn't necessarily a stone-cold robbery. So why is it in this video? Because in boxing culture, the word robbery gets used whenever a fighter does the kind of consistent, visible work that fans value, and still loses on the cards. This fight lived in that zone, close enough to argue, but controversial enough that the reaction became part of the story. Subriel Matías versus Alberto Puello. And this one is where the robbery label stuck because it involved a belt, and because multiple respected outlets described the decision as controversial. Matías won a majority decision with scores 115 to 113, 115 to 113, and 114 to 114 to take Puello's WBC title. The Rings report said Puello appeared to do enough to win and framed it as a controversial result on the night. Boxing Scene also straight up labelled it a controversial majority decision. This fight is the perfect example of how robbery debates start. One guy pressing and forcing exchanges, the other guy boxing, countering, and making the cleaner moments stand out. Depending on what you value, aggression versus clean scoring, you can land on opposite sides. But when credible outlets are telling you, yeah, that decision is going to be argued, you already know it belongs in a list like this. Why it's on the list: close title fight, MD scorecards, and major coverage describing it as controversial, with a lot of viewers believing Puello deserved it. Thanks for watching. If you'd like more content like this, like the video and subscribe. We'll catch you next time.